Hello, dear students. Welcome to the Bajirao IAS Academy. Today is 9th January, and we are going to discuss the daily Hindu newspaper analysis. So, in today's session, we are going to cover three important editorial. The first issue is related to Bilkis Bano case. So, what is this case, and how the Supreme Court judgment ensured the rule of law, and apart from that, the justice to the aggrieved women, and this is related to the 2002 Godhra train incident and the communal violence. So we will be exploring this case in detail, and then we will be shifting towards the rule of law. So what is rule of law, and how in the recent times there is a shift from traditional rule of law to the quick decision making, quick legal action. Okay, and we will be exploring about the basics as well. Then we will be moving towards the last article where we will be discussing about ethics in higher education. You know the importance of ethics. You may have read various topics of ethics in UPSC paper GS4, and there is a very importance of role, like ethics makes you moral, ethics makes you honest, ethics makes you accountable, and apart from that, it makes you emotional as well, and it helps you in decision making to come out from the ethical dilemma you face. So in higher education there is deficiency both in the administration as well as among the students. So how we will be inculcating ethics, the values, the morality in the higher education institution, that will be going to discussed. So let's shift to our editorial number 1, and if you are new to our channel, kindly share, like as well as subscribe, and also try to spread among your friends circle. So the first article is related to GS paper 2. So definitely you are well aware of 2002 Godhra communal rights. In that rights, there was communal violence between two communities, and there was numerous death, law and order crisis. Women were raped, and apart from that, children were killed, and there were many horrific pictures, videos that emerged out, and you have seen in the internet as well. But the most horrific incident we can quote here about the Bilkis Bano. So try to understand the timeline. Like in 2002, during the Gujarat riots, Bilkis Bano, that time she was 21 and was pregnant. She was gang raped by 11 men. And apart from that, 7 of her family members, including her 3-year-old daughter, were also killed. And there was continuous threat for killing of her as well if they try to consult to the police, try to register the complaint against these culprits. And apart from that, police were delaying to register the case, and there was a chances of possible tampering of the case as well. So the pain this women faced is quite serious. And then Supreme Court intervened in the matter, and the case was registered. But what Supreme Court guided is to transfer the case to the CBI, and also the court will be a special court in Mumbai. Okay, so the Supreme Court intervened, transferring the case out of Gujarat for a fair trial. So that is the importance of Supreme Court when there is conflict of laws, and when there is a crisis in protecting the rights of the people. The Supreme Court intervenes in a right way. And that's why in 2008 the 11 men were convicted and sentenced to life imprisonment by the special court in Mumbai. But in recent incident, maybe you have heard, like in 2022, 15th of August, these convicts were released from Godhra sub-jail as per the Gujarat government's remission policy. So remission is means just pardoning the verdict, pardoning the convict actually. Okay, so this was like against the rights and justice of the women. That's why many journalists, and apart from that, the associated persons, experts, they try to file PIL in Supreme Court. That is your public interest litigation against this remission. So on October 12, 2023, Supreme Court reserved its verdict, and there was 11-day hearing. Okay, whether the Gujarat government's remission against this convicts is according to the law or not. Okay, so on Jan 8, 2024, that is January 8, 2024, Supreme Court quashed the remission. That means cancelled the remission. Okay, and these culprits will be behind the jail within 2 weeks. So that is the importance of Supreme Court we have seen here. Okay, so what does it signifies? That Supreme Court upholded the rule of law as well as ensured the public trust as well. Okay, protected the women's right to justice as well. So here you can understand. And also, Supreme Court verdict is based on the ground that Gujarat did not have any jurisdiction to decide on granting remission to convict sentence in Maharashtra, because these culprits were sentenced in Maharashtra. Okay, as we already discussed, that case was transferred from Gujarat to Maharashtra. So here by this decision, Supreme Court uphold rule of law, and also there is a huge belief about restoration of faith in the judiciary. Okay, so whenever the executive or the legislature try to dominate the judiciary, try to balance, try to maintain balance, try to ensure public trust in the judiciary. Okay, so that's why we have a statement that when Supreme Court is there, so there will be the constitutional protection as well. There should be the protection of rights as well, fundamental rights as well. So that is the first article we have discussed in detail. Now we are shifting to the second article, where we will be trying to understand about a rule of law and some important disillusionment. First of all, try to understand a rule of law. Okay, so when we talk about rule of law, it means the law is supreme, and every citizen in India have to follow, have to go through according to the law. Okay, but in earlier times, when there was no constitution, when there was the domination of king queen concept, so just the king's order was rule of law. Okay, whatever the king, whatever the authority said, that becomes the reality, and we have seen many examples. But now we have the constitution, now we have the law, we have the provisions, we have the regulations. So we have to follow that rule of law. Okay, and it is not only for the citizen, it is also for the government, it is also for the state. Okay, a state cannot go against the constitution. That is one thing. If they goes against, there will be the intervention of the different parts of the government. It can be like judiciary, it can be like executive or can be the legislature. We have na like executive, judiciary, and the legislature. So let's say when executive try to over dominate, the judiciary will interfere. When the legislature try to dominate, the judiciary will interfere. And maybe when judiciary try to over dominate, the legislature and the executive may interfere. So that is the balance of power which is clearly provided in our constitution. Okay, tell me some of the powers that showcase that we have the balance of power between these three organs of government. Okay, so hope you understood rule of law and what's the importance of rule of law, that they protects from arbitrary actions of the state, of the government. Okay, and apart from that, it ensures the protection of the constitution, it ensures the protection of the fundamental rights of the citizen. So that is one thing. Okay, so now we are coming to the main context of the article. So we have already discussed about rule of law that also ensures the democratic progress, the democratic development. And without rule of law, you know that there will not be democracy, because that time there can be the manipulation of rules and regulations towards favor or towards against the opposition. So that is one thing. But this is known as the traditional rule of law. Nowadays, there is a modern perceptions emerging out, modern practices which are emerging out that are challenging the traditional model of rule of law. Like we take an example of traditional rule of law. When Gandhiji started the Salt Satyagraha or non-cooperation movement or any of the freedom movements that Gandhiji started, so Gandhiji respected the law that was at that time. But apart from that, they also adopted the democratic means of protest to raise their voice, to raise the voice of the peoples of India. Okay, so on the one time, the Gandhiji also ensured that the rule of law should be followed, and apart from that, there should be the democratic means of protest. And we can learn many things from Gandhiji. Okay, so that is one perception. But now we are facing the credibility crisis as well. There are two challenges which is emerging out. First of all, the outdated or informed laws. There are many rules, regulations which is very older since the British times. Okay, but now we are changing it. Like we have the Jan Vishwas Act, okay, and the new penal codes that we will be discussing. Like IPC was changed into other thing, okay. Then we have the Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita, all of this. So these are getting changed according to the modern perceptions, the viewpoints. And the second challenge was law as a power resource. Here you have to understand that majority or the majority in the government or the government shapes the understanding and application of law. I am taking you some basic example so that you should have a clarification. Let's say you are owner of a company, okay, and that company have 10 directors that takes important decision regarding the investment. So suppose in the 10 members, 7 members including you agrees that investment should be allowed from other country in your company, and there are 3 members which says no, investment should not be allowed from other country. So that time the decision will be based on majority. So the 7 people's decision will become the final decision, and these 3 people's decision will become minor decision. So here we are just ignoring the minority's decision and going via the majority decision. So that is also in case of majoritarian government, that is also in case of majoritarian population. Okay, because laws, rules gets affected, the applications gets affected, and you can take many examples. Okay, and then we have the recent improvements in the penal laws like Jan Bishwas Act, which came in 2023. They tried to control penalizing the minor conflicts, okay, between the government departments and the company or the person, okay, so that ease of doing business should be promoted, okay. And apart from that, we have Bharatiya Nyaya Samhita, we have already discussed. And as you all know, the hit and run case and the section is a part of this Bharatiya Nyaya Samhita. Tell me which section was dealing with hit and run case that led to widespread protest nationwide from 1st January onwards. Just tell me. Okay, so now we have the crisis of credibility and we have to move beyond the normative level. First of all, try to understand that if there is a real crisis, if there is a problem which is faced by the people, okay, so whether the problem is being sorted out by the government, by the authority or not, it will be judged by the implementation of the law, okay, and people's interaction and whether government is giving the solution or not, that will be deciding factor that yes, the law is being implemented in a proper way, okay, there is a proper enforcement of the law. So that is one thing. But we also know that the majoritarian will influencing the how rule of law will be used. And nowadays there is a dangerous shortcuts to enforce rule of law, and we have the examples, the case study, like you talked about bulldozer justice, okay. So bulldozer justice, that means we are trying to ensure quick justice, and we are like ignoring the due process of law, like there is a procedure like registering the complaint, then investigation, then leaving the decision to the court, what the court takes the action or not. So that is the procedure, that is the due process. But now we are shifting towards quick justice, okay, and we have many examples of encounter killings as well. So the traditional model of rule of law, which promoted uniformity, which promoted predictability in the decision making, in registering the cases, and apart from that, there was fixed process of prosecution. Okay, but nowadays we are having a bridged model where quick reactive measures are based on majoritarian dictate on uncertain information, and maybe the information can be incorrect as well, okay. So there are dangers of abridged model, like justice becomes arbitrary and uncertain, and this causes the lack of accountability, and there is a risk of targeting any individual based on unclear criteria. So there is a conclusion, we should protect the traditional rule of law, which is very, very important for maintaining trust, ensuring justice, and having long-term positive solution in reforming our criminal justice system. And citizens must be aware of the dangers of the shortcut approach to the rule of law. Okay, so hope you understood the basic idea and the difference between a bridged model and the traditional model of rule of law. So tell me, which model do you prefer, the best one, and please give the answer based on proper analysis. So that's the end of this article. Thank you.